These days, almost everyone plays poker. While most casinos and card clubs want to protect their patrons, they don't risk any of their own bankrolls as they do in other games. No matter who wins or loses, they profit from collecting the rake, or time. We believe the incentive to protect the game rests upon the players themselves, whether the game is at home, in a club, or in a casino. A poker cheat may use only one or a few of the methods in this program, but that's all it takes to steal the money. In fact, if you thought these shuffles were real, you may already have fallen victim to a shark.
So far we have covered various false shuffles, false cuts, false strips, false washes, and all these false stuffs are eventually done by the cheat to stack the deck. Stacking means to place few cards of the deck at strategic locations, so this will help the cheat or his partner to gain an advantage over their opponent. So let's say this is a 5-handed poker game, and now this is how a cheat would use stacking to his advantage. So let's assume the cheat is in a 5-handed poker game, and this is how he'll use stacking for his benefit. So as you guys just saw, the cheat was managed to deal himself 2 aces in a 5-handed poker game. And now this was done was simple. So let's say he's playing a no limit hold'em game, so he requires 2 cards to be dealt to himself. Let's say he wants the 2 aces to be dealt to himself, so he places these 2 aces at the bottom of the deck like this. And let's assume this is a 6-handed poker game. So this is how the stacking would work. The thief or the cheat will use the Haymow or the milk build shuffle. And now this is done, it's pretty simple. So we assume there are 6 players. So first of all, he takes the top card and the bottom card as a single card as he does the overhand shuffle. So as you can see, he takes the top and bottom cards like this as a single card, and then since there are 6 players, he shuffles 4 more cards from the top. So 2 cards are there, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, he takes 2 cards, one from the top, one from the bottom, as a single card like this, and then shuffles 4 more cards, 3, 4, 5, 6. So now the stacking is complete. He then in-jogs 1 card like this and shuffles the rest on top legitimately like this. So as you can see, this is the in-jog card. He lifts at the in-jog and pushes it in, creating a big break here. So these are the stacked cards and these are the top stock. Then he shuffles normally until he reaches the break. So as he's about to reach the break, he throws the rest of the cards on top of the break like this, and then he places the rest of the cards on top, so the stack goes on top, and I can simply deal out 6 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, cheat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, cheat, and he would have dealt himself 2 aces. And so let's assume this is a 4-handed game, so you place the 2 aces again on the bottom, and this time, since there are 4 players in the hand, you shuffle 2 cards, one from the top, one from the bottom again, 2 cards like this, 3, 4, again 2 cards like this, from one top, from one bottom, then 3, 4, do an in-jog, shuffle the rest on top legitimately, push at the in-jog, create a break, shuffle the rest on top, and then as you reach the break, throw the cards on top of the break, and then throw the cards below the break on top. So your top stock is the stack, and deal out 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you would have dealt yourself 2 aces. And that is how stacking is done in an overhand shuffle by the cheat. The next type of stacking is called pickup stacking, or stacking while a game is going on. Let's assume the dealer, the cheat, is player 6. He folds, player 5 folds, player 4 folds. Player 1 is the cheat's partner, and he has an ace, and he signals to his partner that he has an ace, and he places the ace at the bottom. Okay? The cheat takes his cards, and as he goes to mug them, he places these 2 cards on top with a deceptive move like this. So he knows that the second card is an ace, and he sees the first card on the flop is an ace, and there are 4 cards after it. Since this is a 6-handed game, so he must leave an interval of 5 cards between 2 aces. So 1 ace, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cards, and then 1 more ace. So the cheat now, simply what he does is, when the hand is over, he awards the pot, he places these 2 cards in the muck in the middle, and then he places these 5 cards, turns them over, and places on top. And as he does this, he knows the top card is an ace, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 6th card is also an ace. So now the deck is almost stacked. The cheat squares the deck up for the next shuffle. He gives it a false riffle shuffle, controlling the top stock. And then player 1 has to get the 2 aces if all is done correctly. And as you see, player 1 gets the 2 aces, and this is called pickup stacking. The next thing that we're going to talk about is beating the cut, because in many games it requires you to cut the deck after a shuffle is performed, and the cheat can do this on his own or also with the help of his partner. First of all, we'll see how a cheat does it with the help of his partner. So let's say the cards you're going to control are the 4 aces. They go on top. The cheat shuffles the cards and then places the deck on top. His partner cuts the cards, and as you see, the cheat has controlled the 4 aces on top. So how this was done is simple. We place the 4 aces face up. The cheat uses the overhand false jog shuffle, as we have learned previously. So he shuffles 1 card and slightly in-jogs it. So the 4 aces are on top. He shuffles 1 card and in-jogs it like this, and he shuffles the remaining on top like this. And so 1 card is in-jogged. He places the deck on the table. His partner cuts at the in-jog like this, lifts at the in-jog, and cuts the deck like this, controlling the 4 cards on top. Again, in full speed, looks something like this. Partner cuts, and the cheat controls the 4 aces on top. The next method of beating the cut with the help of a partner is that the cheater will put a crimp into a card, and this would look something like this. Cut. As you can see, he has been cut to 4 aces. So how this is done is that the 4 aces, the cards to be controlled, are on top. And again, we use the overhand false shuffle. So the cheater shuffles 1 card and slightly in-jogs it, and shuffles the rest on top. So there's a slight in-jog of one card, and as he goes to square the deck, he slightly bends this card, creating a crimp, and now his partner can simply cut to that bridge or gap. Now the cheat will know the one card from top, and then there are 4 aces at the bottom. So that's how you beat the cut using a crimp. The next method of beating a cut without an accomplice is to use the classic pass. So let's say the cheat has his 4 slugs on top. They cut, places the cut, and then he has the 4 aces on tap. Now this move is a bit of, you can see this move, so you have to do this move and create a bit of distraction, or as the players are busy. Because if the players are looking at your hand, this move is a bit difficult to perform. So you have to make sure to do this move while the players are not that observant. So once again, you have your 4 aces, the cheat has his 4 aces on top. Player 1 cuts the deck. The cheat places this half on top. As he goes to deal, he has shifted the cards from the bottom to the top again. He'll do it face up. The player 1 cuts. Cheat places the deck back here, and he leaves a gap. He leaves the cards at a jog. So once again, the cheat cuts like this, and he places the remaining cards on top at a slight jog, as you can see. He picks the decks like this, and then as he goes to square the deck, the lower portion gets fed up like this, while the top portion slides down, and the cheat brings the 4 aces on top. Once again, the 4 aces are on top, the cheat cuts. In one motion, the 4 aces are dealt on top. Last time in full motion: cut, jog, lift, pass, deal. The cheat has controlled the 4 aces on top, and that is with the help of the classic pass. The next way of beating the cut the cheat uses is called the drop shift. This is how the drop shift looks. The cheat has the 4 aces on top, the cards he wants to control, and now this is how a drop shift looks. Cut. Oops. And as you can see, the 4 aces are on top. Now this move is sort of a misdirectional move, because this will seem weird to people who will notice keenly. Again, I'll show you how this was done. So cut, oops. So this move uses misdirection and some sort of error. So this is how the move was done. I'll place the 4 aces face up so you can see. The cards are cut to about half. He takes about 1/3 of the remaining deck here and places it here. He leaves this 2 up and places the bottom half on top and places it back up. This move is an error move, so you have to say, oops, I left these cards there. And you have to do this move fast so that it seems to the players that you by mistake left some of the cards here. So once again, cut, oops, like this, and the 4 aces are controlled on top. Last time, oops, 4 aces controlled on top, and that is the use of the drop shift. The next type of way to beat the cut is the stall. This is a very simple and easy move, and it's only used in games where the players are not that observant. So the cheat has his 4 aces on top, the cards he wants to control, and this is how this is done. Okay, let's go. As you can see, the 4 aces are still on top. Now, this is a very simple move, as you just saw. And what a cheat simply does is he cuts, and instead of placing this half on top, he simply takes this half in his hand, places this on top, and uses his motion and also a few words to give misdirection. So once again, okay, let's go. 4 aces are on top, and that is the use of the stall. The next move that the cheat uses to deceive players is peeking while shuffling, and this is how it's done. And the cheat now knows that there's a 10, a 6, a 4, and he can use this information while dealing to his partner or other players at the table. How this was achieved is pretty simple. So as the cheat riffle shuffles, and as he riffles, he peeks the left hand. As the pips are towards this side, he uses the left hand packet to peek as he riffle shuffles. So as he reaches the end of the riffle shuffle, he lets the right hand cards fall first, and then as he reaches the end, he peeks the top few cards like this. So he knows there's a 10, 10, 6, 4. So he can peek again, and then he does a few false cuts and shuffles, and he knows 10, 10, 6, 4 are the top cards, which he can use to deal to his partner, or he can use as an information as to what whole cards his players have. So that is dealing while peeking. So let's suppose the cheat wants to know what the bottom card is. As he's squaring the deck, he knows the bottom card is the 4 of diamonds. So this was done. So as he shuffles the deck up, and as he squares it, he's simply using his left index finger. He does this motion. He bulges the cards so he can look and see this card is the 3 of hearts. So he bulges with his index finger, and this card protrudes out, and he can see the bottom card is the 3 of hearts, and that is the use of peeking. There's one more way of peeking, is known as bubble peeking. So let's assume the dealer has 2 whole cards, and he peeks, and so he knows the top card is the 5 of hearts. This is achieved like this motion, a bulge motion on top of the deck. So let's suppose the cheat gets 2 cards, he peeks, and as he peeks, he turns the deck over like this, and with his thumb he bulges this card on top like this. As you see, there's a slight bulge caused by the thumb and the middle finger, and as he peeks these 2 cards, he also peeks, and he knows this card is the 3 of spades, and that is the use of the bubble peek. The next move that we'll talk about is bottom dealing. Now, bottom dealing is one of the most hardest moves a mechanic or a cheat can perform, and it takes years of practice to master. But obviously I haven't mastered it, so I'll show you my version, a simplified version, just to show you how this works. So I have the 2 aces at the bottom, Now let's assume this is a four-handed poker game. This is how the move would look. 1, 2, 3, ace, 1, 2, 3, ace. So I've dealt myself the two aces from the bottom of the deck. Now this was achieved is pretty, well, not simple. So the two aces go on the bottom and the rest of the deck is obviously not set up. Let's assume there are 5 players in the game. The cheat deals 1, 2, 3, 4. As he comes to deal to himself, what he does with his left thumb, he buckles the bottom card like this so it bulges out a bit, and then he grabs this card and deals it to himself 5. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So once again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bulge with the index finger. Bottom card bulges out like this. Take it and deal it. Again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bulge, deal it. And so in fast motion, if I don't mess it up, it looks something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, ace. 1, 2, 3, 4, ace. So you have to move your hands like this so it creates a deception. Don't, keep your hands stiff like this so they will notice. Move your hands while they're dealing so this will cover up this move. So once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, ace. 1, 2, 3, 4, ace. As you can see, we have dealt ourselves the two aces, and that is how a bottom deal is done. The next method that I'll show you used by cheats is called palming. Now, palming is basically to remove cards from play during a hand and to conceal them in his hand and to later bring that card back into play to help the cheat make his hand. And this is how a palming would look like. This is how palming is achieved by the cheat. Let's say the card he wants to control is on the top and is the ace of spades. So as he shuffles normally, keeps the ace of spades on top. Again shuffles, keeps the ace of spades on top. Give it a few gambler's cut. Keeps the ace of spades on top. Then squares the deck like this. And as he goes to give the deck back into the game or to a player to deal, he with his right pinky he tilts the card like this. So he holds the card like this to give it to a player, and as he goes to give it to the player, he uses his pinky to tilt the card, the top card, and the card goes into his palm like this as he places the card, and then quickly conceals the ace in his palm. This in one motion looks like this. Again. So that is the palm. The next method of palming is called playing it heavy, where a cheat palms the card while dealing. And this is how it looks like. Let's say the cheat is playing heads up and he deals 5 cards to each player. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So as you see, the player 1 gets 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But the cheat now has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards. So this is achieved by simple. Again, the same method. The cheat deals 5 cards to each player. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then as the cheat goes to place the deck back on the table to look at his cards, he again palms 1 card in the same method as above. His right pinky tilts the top card and the top card goes into his palm and then with the card concealed in his palm, he quickly places it back on his deck, lifts it up, so he has now 6 cards instead of 5, so he can use 1 extra card to make his hand and conceal the remaining card somewhere. So that is playing heavy palming. The next method of palming used by the cheat is called the gambler's cop. So let's suppose the cheat wants to control 2 aces at the bottom of the deck. So he does something like this. The deck is being shuffled and shuffled, keeping the 2 aces at the bottom. Then as he goes to give the deck back into play, the 2 aces are copped by him, and which can be used later during play. So as the 2 aces are copped by him like this, the player cuts, and as you see, the gambler managed to put the 2 aces at the bottom again, which he can later bottom deal to himself or his partner. Once again, you see the 2 aces are at the bottom of the deck. The gambler shuffles, keeping the 2 aces at the bottom. Then he cops the 2 cards and gives the player 1 to cut the deck. The player 1 cuts the deck. He has the cards hidden in gambler's cop. This is the gambler's cop. He then brings the card back in and merges with the 2 cards. So now you see the gambler has managed to put the 2 aces back at the bottom. So this is how the gambler's cop is achieved. So as the cheat fall shuffles, he maintains the 2 aces at the bottom of the deck, and then as he goes to give the card back to cut, the cheat counts down 2 cards with his thumb, so 1, 2, and then he holds a slight break like this with his thumb. And then as he goes to give the cards back in, his left hand grabs these 2 cards at the middle, and the rest of the deck slides forward, leaving these 2 cards behind in gambler's cop. So from the front it's almost invisible if the angle is correct. This is the gambler's cop. The cheat holds his hand and the cards are being cut. The cheat grabs the deck again, and then while he goes to deal, he merges these 2 cards with the deck, and then the cheat can, bottom deal the 2 aces to himself using the gambler's cop. So that is the explanation of the gambler's cop. The next method of palming is called palming while shuffling. The cheat can palm cards while he shuffles the deck, and this is how it will look like. As you can see, the cheat has managed to steal 1 card from the bottom. So this is how palming while shuffling is done by the cheat. So the cheat goes to riffle shuffle the deck, he breaks the deck in half, and using his right pinky, he slides 1 card like this towards himself as he shuffles the rest with his right thumb and left thumb. As you can see, he's shuffling the rest of the cards, and 1 card is being slid by his pinky, and then as he goes to square the deck up like this, he steals the card like this. So once again, the cheat breaks the cards to do a riffle shuffle. He riffle shuffles while his right pinky slides 1 card toward himself, and as he goes to square the packet, he manages to steal 1 card. So this is how palming while shuffling is done. So far we have seen cards taken out of the game using the technique of palming. Now I'll show you how cards can be brought into the game using a switching technique. Let's suppose I got dealt a poker hand Ace Ace 9 9 3. Okay? This is my poker hand. Now let's see if I use the switching technique correctly. Can I change 1 card? And just like that, I make a full house. Ace 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 9 9. So This is how the switch was done by the cheat. The cheat conceals one card in his hand, in this case the ace of diamonds. Now let's say he's dealt a 5-card poker hand, ace, ace, 9, 9, 3, so he needs an ace or a 9 to make a full house. So luckily he has an ace palmed in his hand, so what he does, turns the card over and places the card on top, so now he has 6 cards, and then he arranges the cards to palm. The card he wants to palm goes on the top here. Then he slides the card back down like this into palm position, and the top 5 cards now stay up. And the 3 goes, as you can see, into palm position like this. And he places the card back on the table, and the 3 gets palmed here, and the cheat makes a full house with the 3 of clubs palmed or stolen away or switched. The next type of scam or collusion that happens in a poker table is called signaling. Now, signaling is a method where 2 or more cheats they discuss the strength of their hands in secrecy, unbeknownst to the other players, and this is what it would look like in an actual game. So let's suppose me and my partner here are playing against 3 other players in a poker game. So let's say I bet, player 1 calls, player 2 calls, player 3 calls. Now it's my partner's turn to call or fold. I give him a signal and my partner folds. Okay? So let's assume player 3 wins this hand. So all this money gets awarded to player 3. Now you'll ask me, did he get cheated? Absolutely. Because my partner had a pair of jacks, so he should at least call this betting round. But since I signaled him that I had 3 of a kind, my partner knew he couldn't compete with me, and so he saved himself some extra money. So this is how signaling helps cheaters scam people. So one more type of scam that happens with signaling is called building up the pot. So let's assume me and my partner again are playing against 3 other players in a poker game. I have a very strong hand and I signal my partner this. So let's assume I bet 1 chip, player 2 calls, player 3 calls, player 4 calls, and now my partner raises 4 chips. So I call 3, player 2 calls 3, player 3 calls 3, now let's assume player 4 folds. And so instead of the value of the pot being 5 chips, now it has almost 16 chips. My partner has absolutely nothing. But I signaled to him that I had a full house. So I want the pot to be more so I can win more. So what my partner does is he raises with air. So it forces the other players to call. And then on the next betting round, my partner will fold so that the other players doesn't realize he raised with nothing. If the pot becomes huge, I show them my full house and I win a huge pot instead of a much smaller pot. So now we'll talk about the various codes that are used by cheaters during signaling. So these are basically the standard codes, or the code that I learned or saw. This means 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 pair, 3 of a kind, straight, flush, a full house, 4 of a kind, and straight flush. So in this case I signaled him to him like this, and I have 2 pair, 3s and aces. So once again, it's 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 of a kind, straight, flush, full house, four of a kind, straight flush. The cheat can also tell what card she's holding. For example, let's say, I'll give you an example. Okay, so let's assume the cheat is holding this hand. Jeez. G's was the signal given by the cheat to his player, and the player now knows the cheater is holding 3 kings. So this is how the signal and code is broken down. First of all, the cheat puts his finger here, 1 pair, 2 pair, 3 of a kind. So the cheat knows, the cheat's partner knows that the cheat is holding 3 of a kind. Now, what cards he is holding? What 3 of a kind is he holding? He says G's. Now we all know G's means Jesus. And who came to Jesus? The 3 kings. The cheat's partner knows the cheater 1 is holding 3 kings. In the same way, various other codes are developed by the cheats, and in subtle phrases like Jesus, oh God, damn. These are code words mixed with finger placements that allow cheats to communicate in secrecy against other players in the table. And this is how signaling is used by cheaters to scam or collude people. The next thing that we'll talk about is marking cards. Now, marking cards is a technique where a cheat uses specific indentations, small cuts, small dents to identify playing cards during a poker game. For example, let's suppose the cheat wants to mark the 2 kings here, so he can feel them while he's dealing. So what he will do is he'll make small dents at the top right and the bottom left edge here. So I'll show you how. He'll make a small dent, a small indentation at the top right corner so that it doesn't go through, but he can feel it with his fingers. So a small minute dent goes here, and a small minute dent goes here. Again, at the top right corner and at the bottom left corner. So as you can see, small dents have been made that can be felt by the player, the cheat, while he's dealing. So now he plays the king somewhere here and here. So as the cheat is dealing now, he feels for those dents and he knows this is a king. Once again, he feels while dealing. And he knows this is a king. So as he feels this is a king, and he wants to give this king to himself, he can second deal from the top until he reaches his turn, and he can deal himself the king. So that is the technique of punching and marking cards. The next type of marking we'll talk about are mark decks. Now, mark decks are sold marked in the market, and these decks looks like a normal deck of playing cards to the untrained eye, but I can tell you that this is the 2 of hearts, the 9 of diamonds, the Jack of spades, and the King of clubs. I told you this because small markings, very minute markings, are made on the drawings on the back of the cards, and these help the cheats identify the cards. So normal players, this will look like a genuine, card back drawing, but if you see closely at the petals here at the left, slight markings are made that will identify these cards being 9 of diamonds, Jack of spades, and King of clubs. So this is a second technique of marking the cards, which is marked decks that can be bought in the market. The next type of card marking we shall see is called black line work. In black line work, now the cheat takes an X-Acto knife, and let's say he wants to mark the 4 kings or some high cards. Remember, black line working is only for informational purposes and not for controlling cards. So in this case, the cheat takes the X-Acto knife and he marks the top left and the bottom right corners like this, making small impressions, okay, not to cut the cards, but just to make a small indentation like this and like this. You should be careful not to cut the card, but just to make a small indentation so you can feel the cards while dealing, and he will know that he has dealt the king to player 1 or the queen to player 3 or something like that. So that is black line working in card marking. The next type of marking we shall see is called blockout work. Blockout work means the cheat takes, for example, a color pen with almost the same matching color as the deck he will play with, and makes very tiny, minute dots or marks to identify what card this is. For example, let's say the cheat wants to mark the king of hearts. So he'll, let's suppose, make a very small dot here, like this, which is almost invisible to the eye. But the cheat, he'll use this information to identify that this is the king of hearts, and it's also almost invisible to the naked eye and almost impossible to see. So this is how blockout work is done in marking cards. The next thing that we're going to talk about are shiners. Now shiners are, shiny objects or reflective objects placed in the table that helps the cheat see what cards he's dealing to the players. For example, let's suppose the cheat is in a casual home game. He places his mobile phone on the desk, and then he's ready to deal the cards. He shuffles the cards, and now he's ready to deal the cards, so he knows that he is dealing an ace, a 9, a king. Now this is accomplished with the help of this reflective surface on this mobile phone. As he goes to deal, he sees a reflection on the mirror, on the glass of the phone, which tells him this is a 10 of hearts, this is a 3 of hearts, this is a 4 of spades, this is a 7 of clubs, etc. So that is the use of shiners. There are many other shiners that come, gaff shiners like chips with small mirrors on top. Those can be found on, flea markets or stuff like that. So basically, that's how shiners are used in poker cheating. The next method of scamming that we will learn is called chip copying. Now, chip copying is a technique of stealing chips by the cheat after he has made the bet, and this is how it looked like. Let's say the cheat wants to bet 20 chips, so it costs 20 chips, 5, 5, 10, and now he bets, and to all the players it may seem like 20 chips, but add 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. The cheat has stolen 1 cheat and had actually made 19 bets instead of 20. Now this is how it's accomplished. The cheat places a slight sticky substance on his palm, at the center of his palm. He can use a glue stick or some sort of wax, and as he goes to count the chips, he counts out 20 chips in front of his players, and as he goes to move the chips into the pot, he presses on the top chip, and the top chip sticks to his palm and he steals one chip for himself. The same can be done when the cheat, helps his player, a player give the pot to them. So let's say player 1 won the pot. The cheat pushes the pot to the player, and in turn he has stolen one chip. So that is called chip copying in poker. So guys, that brings us to the end of this poker cheating course. I hope you guys had fun watching it, as I had fun making it. Once again, I request you guys not to use any of the moves you just saw in a poker game, because it's unethical and it's also not fair play, if you know what I mean. And also, if you get caught, you may be, in trouble. So that is Max from Poker Bounty. If you like this, do leave a like, and also do not forget to subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys soon next time. Goodbye, and have a safe game.